Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our second episode here of the Esports Hub podcast. My name is Campbell. I'm going to be your host for this evening, and we're talking a load of good things tonight. We're going to be recapping the GFINITY, which we made our own predictions on in our first show. And then in the second segment of the show, we're going to be talking about MLG Atlanta, one of the biggest events for Infinite Warfare coming up just around the corner. It's actually 1 week away now, so we're all excited for that. But joining me again today, two of my favourite people, one from America and one from the UK. We'll start with the one across the waters. It's Paradox once again. Paradox, how are you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm excited because the pools for Atlanta were just announced, and there's one I'm looking at. I'm absolutely freaking out, and it's going to be a good show.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of pools to break down, and obviously that group of death has popped up once again, so we're going to be taking a look at that one. And then my mate just around the corner, kind of close to me, it's Tony. How are you doing, man?
Not too bad, bruv.
Good. I mean, did you manage to catch? I mean, obviously, you know, with it being an event in America, you can expect to see Paradox being really excited and happy about that one. But first thing we want to talk about, though, is obviously GFINITY. Now, we all gave our predictions on it. We all had our conversations about where we thought we were going to place the top three on it. GFINITY in a whole, then, let's break down the actual event. So did you both of you manage to get the chance to actually tune in and watch the event?
Yeah, it screwed up my sleep schedule, but yeah.
So you managed to get the chance to take a look at it. Did you as well, Tony? Yeah.
Yeah, mate. I watched loads of it, to be honest.
Awesome, then. So I kind of want to ask the question then, and I'm going to fire it out towards you first, Paradox. Obviously, you've done Call of Duty Championships. You know, you've seen production at its highest level for Call of Duty. I mean, how did GFINITY for you this weekend look and feel as a spectator of the esport?
As a spectator, it was really good, right? I mean, I loved a lot of the filler content. The 60-second challenge, like that we saw, I believe it was on like Saturday and Sunday primarily, was absolutely hilarious. Courage is only able to go for 18 seconds in one. I thought that was pretty funny. But overall, the production was really good. There weren't a lot of like massive breaks. I think the only real concern I had with the break was when there was a patch release in like the middle of the tournament. Overall, though, the production, I feel like it was A1. Props to GFINITY and everyone at the CWL team for that.
Yeah, once again, Call of Duty just assisting our tournaments a little bit more by dropping a patch right in the middle of it. That tends to be most of our Call of Duty events. That tends to happen. But I'll have to ask you as well, Tony, get your opinion on this one. So, I mean, GFINITY for you, you know, for a spectator and for, like, obviously the 60-second challenge, which is probably one of the biggest things to take away from it, is just adding that little bit of humour. I mean, how did you feel spectating GFIN?
To be honest, mate, I think they've done really well. They had good casters as well. Those lads go around everywhere. You know what I mean? You can see there's a natural chemistry between them all. They have a bit of a laugh and a joke. It isn't all deadly serious, you know what I mean? Especially if you're watching that much of anything in one day. Because you're literally on there for 4 days all the time, aren't you, really? You definitely need a bit of humour. And like I said, it's good. It was good quality casters, you know what I mean? They've done it well. They always do it well. They're well practiced, don't they? They've got their arena. They know what they're doing. And they showed why they're one of the best in the UK at it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually got the chance, luckily, to be there at that event that weekend. I was down there filming some stuff, and I got the chance to meet some of the casters that were down there and also the players. And I tell you what, the feeling when you're actually there at the event and you can see the emotion in these players when they lose the games that they didn't expect to lose, or even when they win the games they didn't expect to win, their emotion is really there. These events mean a lot to these players. Most of these players, you know, need these points because this is their career. Without these points and without these teams and organizations, they go back to their normal life and necessarily lose that pro Call of Duty style of dream. That's kind of, I guess we could kind of say on that one. But I mean, moving on a little bit further into GFINITY itself and taking a look at, you know, what we saw from the event, we have to talk about the top three placings really to start off with it. I mean, if you guys did miss the event, first place was Orbit. They went and took it with $10,000 earning and also those 5,000 pro points. Second place was Splice with $6,000 and 3,000 pro points. And coming in at third place was Team Elevate, $4,000 and 2,200 pro points. And I mean, I have to throw the question out there towards you guys. I mean, is that surprising for you? In my eyes, that kind of feels like they're the top three teams we expected to see.
Yeah. I think they were the top three teams. I think I said Splice first, though. But I think they were the three that, I mean, I think we all sort of agreed. Apart from you, Jack, you decided to do your own thing, you know what I mean? But I think me and Paradox pretty much nailed down those three. Maybe not in that order, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I had Splice at first as well. But like Elevate and Infuse toss up for that third. I feel like Elevate really showed that they have that third spot on lock right now, though.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, it's kind of what we expected to see. But what I guess we didn't expect to see was Splice making the loser bracket run that they made. I mean, if they actually succeeded with it, it was talks that it would probably have been one of the best lower bracket runs at a Call of Duty major event that we would have ever seen. And to be honest with you, I was there at the event, and the finals were ecstatic. Like it was insane. Splice taking that first series. I mean, in my eyes personally, I kind of expected Splice to take the first series. They've just come off 2 series already. It's their 3rd series in a row. They're going to be warmed up. The momentum's in them. I expected them to take the first one off Orbit, and then you could kind of see in the second best of 5. Orbit were warmed up. They were more ready. They ended up taking it 3-0. And so in terms of that, then, I mean, the question I kind of have to ask, and a question I've been debating with myself, is I don't personally feel that Orbit are the best team in Europe. I honestly think it's Splice. Now, I know that Orbit obviously won the event. But I honestly still feel that Splice have a better uplink game. They're better at search and destroy. In terms of hardpoint, yeah, Orbit have got the slaying power there. But I mean, I kind of want to throw that question out to you guys and say, is it Orbit or is it Splice? Who is the best team in Europe?
I think it depends on the day, mate, and what maps they're playing and everything. I think those 2 teams are close, which is why at the start, like why we said last week, you know what I mean, we couldn't pick them apart, because they're both, all 3 of those teams are good. You know what I mean? Honestly, I think they're so close, those teams, and it showed in the final. You know what I mean? I was sitting there meant to be watching the film with the missus, and I sort of made an excuse, almost had a potential argument with her, so I could go away and sit on a computer and watch it.
I mean, is that the same for you, Paradox? I mean, are you more of an Orbit, I think, are the better team, or Splice, or is there a completely different team that you think is the best in Europe?
See, when it comes to those 2 teams, I think still it's a toss-up, right? Like, it depends on the day, the situation. I feel like right now Splice do have the better uplink game as a whole, right? Because we've looked at, and I'm sorry, but I got to point this out, there were way too many missed 1-point throws at that event. Way too many. I mean, you can bring in one of the portals move mid-tournament. That one's a pass. But in general, I feel like we need to see players really get down and practice that. That's not necessarily a jab at Orbit. They perform really well. And I think that, honestly, it depends on the day. I feel like Orbit, in my mind, is number 1 right now, especially from what we've seen from them. But number 1 on paper, I still would have to say probably Splice.
Yep, and I think that's kind of the agreement between us 3 there. I mean, like you say, major events is all about the team that performs up on the day. You can be as good as you want online. You can go on insane win streaks, and in the end, it's all about the LAN performance itself. So, I mean, let's talk about win streaks and online performances, because one team that really did dominate online was Epsilon. You know, how many PPGBs did we see them end up playing? And I don't really think they necessarily got the placement that they expected or would have really wanted to get. I mean, in terms of Epsilon as a team and what you saw this weekend, they've obviously got to go through open bracket, which is something we're going to be talking about later in MLG Atlanta. They didn't qualify for the pool play, and they're going to have to fight their way through open bracket. After seeing the GFINITY event, Paradox, is Epsilon looking confident to you that they'll make it out of the open bracket?
That's a really tough question. I mean, the open bracket in Atlanta is going to be stacked, but we look at a roster in Epsilon. I still have faith in this team, right? They play 7th, 8th, and London, and I feel like they should have been right there with the 5th, 6th spot. But so just like 2 spots off. They can make the open bracket run, but as we talked about last week, that is a grueling thing to do. You have to play so many matches against so many teams. You get later into those stages, you're waking up early in the day, you're going to bed really late at night. It drains people. So I feel like this team they definitely have the talent to make it out of the open bracket, but I really have to see how they're going to feel at the event. Like, are they going to be that drained? How are they going to be able to wake up and perform? Will they have adequate time to warm up? Are they going to get into some of those matches and maybe drop a map? I feel this is a team that should make it out of the open bracket. I have confidence in them to do it, but I'm going to have to see the bracket that honestly, they're either gifted or really putting a tough side of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that kind of wraps up the top 3 big teams and kind of wraps it up for you guys if you missed it. So it was Orbit first place, Splice in second, and then Team Elevate coming through in third. But moving on to kind of like the underdog story is something that anybody in esports massively enjoys. It's one of the main reasons why we tune into esports. Seeing that team that necessarily wasn't expected to do much at an event, able to outplay some of the bigger teams there. And it goes to Team Aware. And I have to say, and I will put my hands up, congratulations and fair play to Team Aware. They turned up at an event, and I made a tweet throughout the week that basically said I was, you know, Benji in the middle of his interviews, there was no disrespect from him. He didn't slate any players he played against. He knew that he'd come to this event and he had a tough competition on his hands along with his team. He knew that the competition was against him in terms of calling him an online team. And I think what that team was able to do was just to put all that to the side and just come out with a good performance. And I think that was proven. I mean, for starters, let's talk about Aware's victory over FNATIC, okay? FNATIC, obviously, they went down to the lower bracket they were aggravated. I spoke to Scraps about it. He was like, you know what, bro, like it's annoying and all, but we've got Aware next. And I said, you know, don't underestimate Aware. And he's like, no, we won't underestimate them. Don't worry about it. And then they ended up losing 3-1. Now, Aware then obviously advanced and ended up placing 6th at the whole event. Now, that is really good for, I mean, most of those players have just turned 18 years old. It's their first ever event. And, I mean, I'm going to throw the question out there rather than me discussing about it. I mean, I have to ask you, Tony, you know, you've been in the scene in terms of being a team owner. You've made teams grow from nothing to something and win events and stuff. I mean, for you, sitting back and looking at this Aware team, do you see potential in these guys? Can you see them doing stuff at big events like Atlanta and maybe even Champs?
I think they played well. We spoke about this before the event, didn't we? And I was saying about young Johansson and that. Like, he was one I singled out, said I wanted to watch because he's disgusting online. But they done, like you said, mate, they've done well. You actually said you fancied them as well. That was one of your picks, Jack. One of the only things you ever get right, you get names wrong, team names wrong, and everything. But you managed to pick that one out. But yeah, no, they did impress you, mate. Like you can't finish 6th and not do well. You know what I mean? They're just. I think they play well as a team. I think that's their strength. Some games people were going off, you know what I mean, and doing a little bit better than that. But I think they just do well as a team. The communication's obviously on point. They've been playing since the start of the game. You know what I mean? They put the hours in. You've got to look at teams like FNATIC and that although like Wiskins is good and all that, he's only just joined the team. And I honestly do think, as you know, the way I try to build my teams, I think the longer a team stays, the better they do at events. And when the pressure comes, you know what I mean, you know you've got the people there you can rely on, and you sort of know what they're going to do. And I think that benefits Aware. As for Atlanta, I think it's going to depend on what they get in the groups, in the pool play. Sorry, I mean in the open bracket. With all of them, every team that goes over from the EU, it's really going to depend on the luck of the day, mate, and the draw they get.
Well, that's the really interesting thing, actually, what you just brought up there, Tony. So if you guys are tuning in and you haven't quite seen what's happened on Twitter, Dens, Gefkid, Johansson and Benji, obviously they were part of Aware. They've just been dropped from the organisation Aware and will not be attending MLG Atlanta until they find an organisation. A little bit of a surprise turn of events, really, to be honest with me. And I think I will come to you, Paradox, in a second, but I really want to go to Tony about this one because he owns an organisation and a team himself. Now, I'm assuming, I think, Tony, it's down to funding. Aware couldn't fund the team to fly over to Atlanta and compete. But in my eyes, personally, if I owned an organisation, I'd do anything to send a team that just had a decent performance like that to an event. I mean, where do you stand on that?
I've got to be careful what I say. I don't want to upset other rules in there. But personally, I don't like the fact that it's been done. I don't believe that. To me, I mean, I'm probably really wrong. You know, I mean, Aware's a great org, and I'm probably totally wrong on this. But to me, I don't believe they wouldn't have known before GFINITY. And to do it after the event when they've got the sort of publicity from them playing at the event and then turning around saying, sorry, lads, we don't have the money. So it's a bit out of order on the lads, I think, as well, because they'd have had more, in my opinion, they'd have had more chance if they could have said, look, we can almost give you a free event if you then send us to, you know what I mean, they'd have been in a better bargaining position. They obviously done themselves credit at the event, you know what I mean? People know they can play and you know what you're going to get out of them, and they're a decent team, you know what I mean? And honestly, you know me, deep down, no matter how much sometimes people annoy me, I want people to do well. I ain't an horrible person, and I really do hope the lads get something, you know what I mean? But it's a lot of money in this short amount of time to send the team if they don't get a bigger org, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, personally, in my eyes, unless an organisation just decides to completely drop a roster and send them, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to really be able to put the money together. And it's always a risk as well. I mean, they haven't got a guaranteed pool play position. They're going to have to go for open bracket. I mean, you could end up spending all that money and then they get some two seriously dominant teams. I mean, the likes of Epsilon still got to come for open bracket. They could get Epsilon straight off the bat. And if Epsilon,
I think they'd give Epsilon a good game, to be fair. Like,
I think,
after seeing about the event. But it's like I said, it's more some of the American teams that didn't make it. You've got to remember, because of the other European teams that got put in it as well, there's some really strong American teams that haven't made it, you know what I mean? And also the Australian teams and that, they're all going to be there. And like you said, it's a risk, mate. It is a risk to pick up any team that's going in the open bracket.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's good to mention as well what Paradox said last time when we were talking about what MLG Atlanta is going to be. It's going to be a bloodbath. It literally is going to be that. You know, there's so many decent teams that are going to be battling it out for those all-important pro points. I mean, there's so many up for grabs, and if that's not enough to entice you to be good, you've got 200 grand on the line as well. So there's so much riding out for these players and so much to go on. But I think one of the last things I want to do before we do go to an advertisement break, guys, because we do have a special guest joining us tonight. It will be SunnyB from Team FNATIC to talk about MLG Atlanta and also break down a little bit of GFINITY and how the event went for him. But before we do that, we have to talk not necessarily about the positives, but there are sometimes not necessarily the underdog story, but maybe the story we didn't quite expect, and that was Black Forest Gaming for me. I mean, Team Revolt, we spoke about it, didn't we, Tony? We mentioned to each other that, we've got Mike's team going. We said, is Mike going to be able to do it this year? Is he going to be able to get a team together and get enough pro points? And I don't think either of us thought that he would place last place. Did you?
I did say, if you watch the video, I think they got 3 good players in that team. Obviously, the team's split up now. I think Baldy's left and they stay with the others. I actually think Baldy's a decent player. I think someone was saying he is a bit quiet. He's scrimmed, messing around with us before, and he is a bit quiet in game. But I think he's a good lad. I just didn't think they had a strong 4. And the problem is, if you ain't got a strong 4 and one of your better 3 isn't playing well, then you're down 2 players almost. You know what I mean? As you see with some of the top sides, there'll be games sometimes where one person won't be going off. If you've got 3 good people, you can sort of carry it. You know what I mean? But if you haven't, trust me, it's been our problems lots of times. So I'm speaking from experience. You just can't do it, and I think that's what we see. I'm gutted because I like Mike. I like Mike a lot. I was gutted for him, and I think Mike's a good player. They just didn't turn up. I don't think.
Yeah, so that's it really. Paradox finishing in the last place. Obviously, you are picking up pro points for attending, and it's still quite a nice amount of pro points. I mean, I think it was Scraps who confirmed it was 900. I think we confirmed last time there was something for going. I mean, that's still a decent amount of pro points, but I mean, it's not necessarily at that point in time when you're finishing in last place. It doesn't matter how many pro points you're getting given. The mindset that must put on an individual going into an event. I mean, to think that you might go to MLG Atlanta and play against even better people than you played against in GFINITY, that is a complete mindset thing for me. I mean, how far back does that set a player, Paradox? And I have to ask you as well, let's take a look at some actual stats that we were able to get earlier. So Baldy finished on a 0.6 KD for the whole event, and just behind him, another teammate on the same team had the second lowest KD of 0.75 or something like that. I think it was. That was Torres. I mean, when you've got 2 players on the team with the lowest KDs of the whole event out of 16 teams of players, I mean, you're just not going to win the event, Paradox. And I think for Mike, let's say, for example, because I know that Mike Torres and Subsist have stayed together. I mean, how do you come back from something like that, Paradox? How do you get yourself regained and ready to try and actually make it where you want to be?
I mean, thinking about that mentally, it's debilitating, right? It's draining when you just go out and you have that. Honestly, I'm sorry. It's a bad performance. It's not what we really expected from them. They bottomed out. And hopefully that's when you just have to, honestly, you kind of have to forget that, right? Even if you just go back and think about, all right, what went wrong here? What went wrong there? You need to address those things before you go to another event. You need to make sure you're still in that grind, stay motivated, stay as a core team, because even as Newt said, as Tony said, right, you want to have that core group that you can depend on time and time again, right? Because once you get into that chemistry and everything, that's where we see a lot of top teams. You think of like a FaZe, you think of an Optic Gaming, even an E6, when they've shown what they can do with that chemistry, stay together, keep on the grind, and the results will come in time.
I mean, that's something that Tony lives by. I mean, sticking his team together. I mean, how long have we seen Pato and Dreams on the same team? Even when we saw recently I think it was probably about a month ago, we saw Dreams decided he wanted to part way and move on, but then he ended up getting drawn back in because that's the foundation that you build over there at Bulldog. And I think eventually it ended up working out for you. You was able to go and win Insomnia. It may not be a major event, but winning an event for any organization owner is still a success. I mean, you can then sit back and say you built a team that's been able to go on and win an event. And I think one thing that we have to talk about, since we're on the topic of organizations, is it's not just the ex-Aware team that are looking for an organization. Team 3G. Now, Team 3G, we want to talk about them briefly and how much of a fantastic event they had, and Weeman Chilton in particular. So we're talking about that roster. It was Quicker and Nile. Obviously, we saw them throughout last year. They've been close to the CWL. I mean, Quicker was obviously under Hyper Games in the CWL, and Zerg was extremely close to breaking into it. At one point, he was in it. And Weeman, we spoke about the pressure that he might have, and obviously it's his first major event. He had a fantastic performance. I mean, Paradox, you must have tuned in and seen him. Break it down for me. How did you think Team 3G performed that weekend?
Oh, see, I was scared because you guys were giving me looks last week, and I was like, all right, 3G's going to place like 5th or 6th or something, and then they actually come out and do it. I was ecstatic. But looking at that, I mean, they really had a great performance, right? Reman really turned up. He I didn't expect to see it. Like, I had a bit of faith from what you guys had said last week, but just the performance that they had, it was actually pretty cool to see, and actually, like, refreshing, I guess, is another thing to say. Like, you have this team coming through, and they're really an underdog story coming through, and then it's like people on the other side, it's like, yeah, no, these guys are really good. They can get this done. So I really want to see what they're able to do going forward. I mean, they got a pool play spot in Atlanta, so let's see what they can do there.
They really deserve getting a good all, like. Honestly, yeah. I think they're a really good side. And I'm buzzing for Wee Man. Like, he's a really nice lad, and he's been trying, and he's been around the area, and he's always carried the thing that he's an online joke. But, you know, I mean, he played well. Like, compared to how he played in Somnia, where I see him, he definitely played well.
I mean, definitely, that's one thing I was kind of going to say as well, Tony, is the basic on. It's very much easier for an organisation to approach a team that's already got the pool play spot than it is a team that's not got a pool play spot and needs all the funding in the world. I mean,
well, you're guaranteed to get the time on camera, aren't you?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's the risk. You're sending any of the team in that open bracket. You may not even get streamed. Like, the amount of games like this, you may spend all that money and get no airtime whatsoever. Yeah. And it's totally wasted. This is what some people don't appreciate, how hard it is for an org to actually make money out of a team at an event. People think that just because you've gone there, like, we had people for champs messaging us, asking us to pick their teams up for champs, saying, give us this money, give us that money. It's impossible to make it back. Especially if your team's not going to be there no more. It's only one event. You can't go. It's like going into a car showroom. You see a picture of it online and you turn up and I ain't got it no more. You know what I mean? I go to a sponsor and go, yes, we was at champs. All right, wicked. You still got that team? No, they're gone, mate. Well, you got nothing then, have you? You know what I mean? You've sold the car. I ain't going to get my money no more. And it's just really hard. And if you don't make pool play and that, then you're literally just throwing your money away. You know what I mean? You might as well take your girlfriend on holiday instead, like. Yeah. And so at least with, like I said, Zerg and all that, they're good as well. You know what I mean? They are good. They're strong. They've proved it over all the 2Ks and everything. And like I said, I'd like them to get somewhere because I think they deserve it. And I'd like to see what they could do with the ability to, I don't know what their working patterns and that are like, but a bit of faith behind them, a good org, you know what I mean? A strong org to say, look, come on, let's see where we can take you and give them a chance to develop over this first season or whatever, you know what I mean?
Well, definitely there is the talent in that roster for that to be able to happen. But before we do go to our short advertisement break, and then we do get SunnyB in, who was our guest for tonight, the team player on FNATIC, I just want to go to the Twitch chat because we've actually got someone who's asked a question that's actually really interesting. I'm going to fire at both of you. We'll start with you, Paradox. So Diamond Dog 2013 said, what do you guys think about the upcoming young talent in Call of Duty? So we'll split this down the middle. We'll go NA and EU. I'll go over to you first, Paradox. So explain to me, what do you think of the young talent, the breaking through guys in the NA scene right now?
So right now, I feel like it's actually a pretty good time to be a younger player. I mean, you think of E6, all these guys really just turned 18, really making a name for themselves and moving up through Felony's 19, although he was established before. He's doing really well. Obviously got his first event win in Vegas. But then you look at two big names, and I'm going to pay attention to these guys. Actually, I'm going to throw in three here. Exib, Temp, and TJ Halley. These three are right outside of that, turning 18. They're turning, I believe all three of them are turning 18 this year. So I wonder if anyone's going to be picked up because you think the pro points really matter with this. You can't earn pro points unless you're 18. Right, so Exib can't get pro points for another month and a little bit more because he turns 18 in March. So looking at that, I feel like it's a really good time. We're seeing a lot of new faces come in and faces that can hang with some of the best in the game. So I feel like this sort of transitional period is going to be really interesting, and I can't wait to see what these guys are able to bring to the main stage.
Yeah, and even though he isn't in the Call of Duty scene no more, I think one name in terms of FPS underage talent's got to be Hugh if we're throwing a name out there. Hugh, I don't think I've seen anybody with that much aggressiveness and hype than the young Scump. I mean, he reminds me of Scumpy when he was younger, coming through in the early stages of Optic. You know, you take a look back to the VT of when he's just literally screaming after breaking that hill and picking up 3 or 4 kills, and he stands up and he makes the crowd bow down to him. Hugh doesn't necessarily have that much hype, but the way that guy plays FPS is, you know, if anybody could get all the championship majors in 3 titles, of 3 FPSs, I would probably say it would be him. But we're moving over the water. We're going closer to home. We're going to talk to you, Tony, about EU underage talent. Now, coming through in this one then, where do you think, and I'll pick a few names for me, that you would expect to see either making it into the CWL or at least getting close?
I think Paradox come up with a good point about the pro points, because there's a couple of lads coming through this year and next year. And if you do come through at the wrong time, it could cost you. Look at someone like, someone more established, we'll go back to you, like Carbines, decided he's going to come back, get some more time off. And even with him, to me, he's one of the best ARs, like a really rated kid. But because of his points, he's maybe going to have to play for teams he didn't think that he wouldn't normally have if they weren't there. But coming through, you got a bit close to home. You got the lads that we used to have as our youth team for a little bit. They were winning all the events, all the GFINs and that. So you got like Kezar, Bids, Swift and all that, Calicious. Then, you know what I mean? So them personally, obviously closer, I hope they all do well. I'm not going to forget when Swift's birthday is. I'm not going to announce it on here so no one else can sniff around him. But, you know what I mean? There's 2 or 3 teams that when they play anyone, you know what I mean, they will give them a good game in the EU. It's a bit frustrating sometimes because you see people ego in them and they won't play against them because they're like, oh no, you're unders. But they are literally better than 90% of the over 18 teams anyway. And if you'd have took the youth team that we had under us, they were literally bumming so many different teams. If they would have been 18, they would have definitely been good enough to be at the GFINITY tournament that just went, you know what I mean, them as a 4. They played together for a while, but they were just doing well, you know what I mean. And it'd have been good to see them online, at LAN, because obviously it's all online for them at the minute, really, unless you go SFCO. But I think we're in a good state, you know what I mean. I think there should be 1 or 2 coming through over the next couple of years, pro points dependent. You know what I mean, it's going to massively depend when their birthday is, really.
Yeah, well, I think like if we're using prime examples of where we've seen underage players be good, I think we can talk about we could definitely talk about
Shawnee though.
Shawnee, yeah, that's it. Shawnee, Team Elevate this weekend, 3rd place, first major event, you could kind of say.
18 at the right time.
Yeah, definitely, and I think like it really worked for him. So anyway, we have got SunnyB joining us, so we're going to cut to a very quick advert break, and when we do return, SunnyB will be joining us to talk about the GFINITY event and breaking down MLG Atlanta for you.
Welcome back for another episode of the Esports Top 5. Your host Paradox. Well, all the pros are getting down at 3rd CWL London GFINITY Invitational. We decided to take some of your clips and put them together for you for another week. Let's start this one off. Number 5, courtesy of Jacko. Stomping of a hardpoint so far, about 200 to 93, and they're going to keep it going. Spots 1 on the wall run, connects. Spots another, that's 2 in a row. I know you saw the 3rd guy. He is up in the air. He comes crashing back down to the earth. A couple more trying to come from showers. 1, 2, that's going to be fully streaked out. 9 bullets left, and I feel like that team absolutely ran away with that Commissary Hill. On to number 4. This one coming in courtesy of Exact, left in a 1v3 in the search and destroy. Lives on the line in this one as well. Spots 1 up in the air, connects, gets out of dodge, picks up 2. That makes it a 1v1. This bomb is down at A, decides to go on the bridge, caught sprinting through the door. The hip fire, the connection, the kill, and the defuse. They stay alive in that search and destroy. Number 3, Clutches. I'm looking at you. Round 11, all 6 players alive on the map. Let's see how this goes. This bomb is down at A, and you know, on this map, the bike path, absolute death trap sometimes for teams. You need to be able to execute in these situations. Spots 1 over by the picket fence, picks that one up. Now they have the man advantage. They're going to try and push it. 1 goes up into the ticket on the minimap. He's taken out. Make that both teammates dropping. So now it's a 2v1. The tables have turned. Clutches picks up 1 more. Now, left 15 seconds. This bomb is going to explode. What can Clutches do to win this round? Spots 1 dropping right in front of him. Cleans it up. Gets the defuse. The round 11 goes to him. The ace and the victory. Great play coming out there. We have a special coming up for you next at number 2. It's going to be back-to-back. And when I say back-to-back, I mean like 2 rings. 1v3s, courtesy of Thunder. Spots 1 going into observation, picks that one up, takes 1 off of the bomb site as well. Backs up 1v1. Just has 30 seconds to work with, and normally you think a lot of players like to hide on this side of the map. Spots 1 more in the observation deck, cleans that one up. The next round, Thunder is back on the hunt, moves into drill control, spots 1 in the corner. The drop shot connects. So now it's a 1v2. He was able to get a scarab.
On that one, not going to use just yet, of course, moving closer towards some of these streaks. And Search and Destroy, those can make all the difference. Spots one more inside of drill control. Only able to get a couple of hit markers. Time starting to dwindle down. Just 25 seconds left. Thunder has to do something. Goes up and around using the advanced movement. Uses the active camo. Drops down behind. Picks up both. 5-0 so far in that Search and Destroy. I like to think they got the 6th one as well. But now, on to our number 1 clip. The late night pillow fights are back. Swappa. 2 in a row, man. I don't understand how you do it. This is another situation. 1v4. Able to pick up one. Makes it a 1v3. They're up 4-1 in this Search and Destroy as well. This bomb is down at B. 25 seconds left in bedroom. Picks up the second. Make it a 2v1. Can Swappa do it? And how will he decide to do it is a really important question. Gets the drop shot on one coming in Bike Shop. And for the second episode in a row, ladies and gentlemen, the Ninja Defuse. He's halfway, almost all the way there. The shots don't come in time. I don't understand how you do it, but you did it again. Congratulations for taking the number 1 spot. Remember to follow us on Twitter at the Esports Hub. Make sure you send in all of your plays to be featured in the next top 5. And if you want to give me a follow on Twitter, it's at ParadoxCaster. Thanks once again, and make sure you tune in to the next episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Esports Hub podcast. My name's Campbell. Joining alongside me is the usuals, Paradox and Tony. But we've got a special guest joining us tonight, and it's our first guest on the Esports Hub podcast. It's the FNATIC pro player. It's SunnyB. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. So we're going to be talking about GFINITY with SunnyB. We're going to be talking about the previous event that you just recently attended. Then we're going to talk about MLG Atlanta. And then while SunnyB is here with us, we're going to break down the pool plays, get SunnyB's input on them as well, and see which one he think is the group of death. But before we do that, let's talk about GFINITY then, SunnyB. So how did you think, from the player's perspective, and we've had the caster's perspective and the spectator's perspective, but as a player, how do you feel that GFIN runs events for you?
I mean, GFIN runs events amazingly. I mean, they're one event who takes care of the players, making sure we've got drinks, food, everything sorted. So one of my favourite events personally. Like,
I mean, one of the things as well that we had to touch upon as well is, didn't GFINITY pay you guys like 24 hours after the event? They paid out the price.
Yeah. The payout was 24 hours later. So yeah, that was pretty mad.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the craziest things. I mean, the fact that GFINITY is, making sure you all got drinks, you've all got food, pays you out 24 hours later as well, and you feel as well like a player then, Sonny, that you're being looked after there, yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm going to fire the questions out on the table. Whether Tony or Paradox got any questions for SunnyB from the event, fire away now.
I've got a question for you, actually, Jack. How many times did you have to keep saying Sonny's name over and over again so you remembered it when he was on the stream? Unlike last week when you kept forgetting it.
Do you know what it was? This weekend, I bumped into you tonight, Sonny.
Yeah.
And I kind of looked at you and I said,
"As if you forgot my name." I can't believe you forgot me, man.
I said to him, I kind of shook his hand and I said, "Bro, I thought I forget your name." And the look in Sonny's face was kind of like, I kind of like a little bit of humor, but kind of like, yeah, you fucking dick. Like, it's just like, you should not have forgotten my name at all. But I didn't think that would get brought back up again. But thanks anyway, Tony.
It's all right, mate.
Thank you. But does anyone have any questions for Sunny B in terms of the GFINITY event? I mean, anyone want to ask him anything about how it went?
Sonny, what's it like playing with the brothers?
I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. Like, I mean, when we play online, like, I don't have no problems, like, knowing who's who. Like, I can tell the difference. But for some reason, when we was in that booth, man, when one of them would say something, man, it was literally, they sounded the exact same. It was, I can always tell the difference. But in that booth, I don't know what happened, man. I just couldn't, I was getting mixed up so much. That was the first ever time I was getting mixed up with them as well. But I mean, man, it's great playing with them, to be fair. It's actually pretty fun, man.
They're good lads, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a really difficult question here. Before I'll fight to you in a second part. I just want to ask you this one really quick question. And I'm going to make it difficult for you as well. So you have to answer the question. Out of the two brothers, Sonny, which one's better?
Which one's better?
Oh.
I mean, I'd have to obviously go with Scraps because obviously he's played longer, man. So, yeah, so I'd say Scraps is better. But that's obviously just because I've played with him for longer and he's been competing for longer. So, yeah.
Good save. I like it. Good save. Paradox, fire away.
Yeah, this is like an easy question. It's honestly just wondering. So GFINITY, like their arena is like a theater setup. So what is the atmosphere like there when the crowd gets like really into it?
I mean, the atmosphere, I mean, it's pretty crazy, man. Because obviously, normally at other events, everyone's just like, obviously, you all stood up watching the games. Yeah, and that's obviously, but everyone's sat down. The seats are comfortable. You can go get popcorn, nachos a lot, man. It's pretty crazy in there. I mean, to be fair, obviously they've changed the setup in there, so they've lessened the seats in there, so there's not as much seats as there used to be. Yeah, but I mean it's still amazing in there though. It's just like it's like the perfect venue, isn't it, for a COD event? Everyone in a cinema room, just sat in there. Perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
Venue,
I mean, I don't think anything beats the Norbreck personally, but I mean, you know, I don't know about that. But I guess GFINITY's close to it. But going on a little bit into your team and you know your individual ability. I mean, I have to ask you two questions here. First question I'm going to ask you, Sonny, is how did you feel you performed that weekend?
That weekend, I felt I performed average. I felt I could have performed much better, but it was all of our first times playing on LAN on the game. So like, I know for a fact I'm going to play way better MLG, but I felt average, but I could have played much better.
And as a team, I mean, are you happy with the placing? Are you not happy? I mean, what was it you was expecting?
I mean, going to the event as a team, we wasn't expecting that much. Obviously, like it being all of our first events on the game, Wuskins' first proper event, and we only had 3 nights of practice because of the GBs. So going into the event, like we weren't delusional. We weren't thinking, oh, we're gonna go in there and smash it. Obviously, we wanted to try to do as best as we could, but I mean, losing to Aware, man, there's no excuses, man. That's straight embarrassing, and that's never gonna happen again. I promise. I'm not letting that happen ever again. But I mean, going to the event, yeah. I mean, our main goal was to qualify for MLG, which we did do. So we're happy about that. But our performance overall, we weren't really happy. But I mean, we're over it now. We knew what went wrong, so we're gonna make sure it's fixed.
That's an interesting comment you made there, Sonny. I mean, it's embarrassing to lose to Aware. It'll never happen again. I mean, so I'm assuming from your perspective then, Aware is there and they're not a team that threatens you, or maybe looks like they might do anything? I
mean, they're a decent team, don't get me wrong, but we shouldn't be losing to them. I personally don't think anyway, so yeah. But they are a decent team.
Awesome. All right then, well, we're going to be moving on into MLG Atlanta. Obviously, Sonny, you're going to be attending that one. You were able to grab your spot. It was battle between you and Aware, if I'm correct. If Aware beat, was it Splice? Then they would have taken...
No, I'm pretty sure they had to get top 2 from what I believe. Right, okay. But I'm not sure. Before that event, we was about just over 3,000 in front of them. So yeah,
they would have had to place at least top 2 to be able to beat you guys.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Awesome. Well, let's start to take a look at MLG Atlanta. I'm assuming you've been paying close attention already, Sonny, to the brackets and also to the pool groups and team whereabouts that you all are. But let's start off with Pool A then, and we'll get everyone's opinion in on this one. So Pool A looks real interesting for me. We've got Rise Nation, FaZe Clan, Infused, Enigma 6, and obviously the open bracket team. So I'm going to ask you first, Paradox, as you begin to break that one down. Going to see the two big teams, American organizations, Rise and FaZe, are going to be battling it out in that one. And then you've got the EU team that you were talking about earlier, kind of threw them into the mix and saying that they're a top team, possibly you could say from Europe. I mean, who do you think's top in that group, and is Infused likely to make it out?
All right, looking at this, top 2 go straight into winners, 3rd goes to like losers round 3, 4th goes to losers round 2, and then 5th goes to losers round 1. Pretty sure that's how it goes here. Looking at this, honestly, my questions are on how Rise and FaZe start out. Like, will they start out hot? Because we know E6, they're not a team that's averse to upsets, right? They can definitely come out and hang with the top. And my question is a lot going to be looking at their performance at this event. How do they really adjust? Because with the recent sort of changes to the rule set, OSA taken out. So we're pretty much going to see a lot of K-bars, some NV4 work, and we might see some ERAD because we did see a good amount of that in London. Will that transfer over to North America? Top 2, if I'm playing it safe, I'm saying Rise and FaZe, but honestly, I don't even know. I feel like FaZe is getting out into winners guaranteed. That 2nd spot is a complete toss-up for me.
Sonny, you've played against Infuse before. You know the guys over on there. I mean, from your perspective, is Infuse looking like they'll possibly come out in the winners bracket in that area, or is it just not going to be too much competition for them?
I think Infuse have a good chance of getting out in winners in that group because, I mean, I feel Rise, obviously, they did win the last event, but they haven't been doing too well in the 2Ks. I know it's online, but, I mean, that's all we've got to judge off, hasn't it? But gone off the 2Ks, Rise haven't been doing too well. I think FaZe is going to top the group. I think FaZe will get 1st. And then I think 2nd, I mean, people are probably going to hate me on this saying, but I think it'll be Rise or E6. Like, I don't think, I mean, not
Ooh,
Rise.
E6.
I think it'll be Infuse or E6. I don't think Rise will go through winner bracket in that pool. But that's only because, see, with E6, obviously everyone was saying, oh, no ulcers now, not as good. But since they've been playing with no ulcers, from what I've watched, they've still been playing just as good. But I think for winners, it will be FaZe 1st, and then I think 2nd will be Infused or E6.
So, Tony says Infused or E6 going to come through in that 2nd place spot. I mean, how much of that do you agree with, Sonny? I mean, is E6 a team you expect to do that, or is it just going to be FaZe and Rise, the Americans dominating again?
Don't Rise normally do well the first tournament and the last one, and then sort of go off the ball in between? Like, I swear they have like a really good start and a really good end, and they just vanish not vanish, but they're not as good in between. I agree, FaZe is probably going to win that group if they turn up. Do you know what? I can't disagree with him. You know what I mean? He gets paid to do this. I have to go and soldier and stuff. But I think, do you know what? I think if Infuse get the maps that work for them, then they'll do all right. They're a good side. Marky B's been around forever. He knows what he's doing. Look at some of their players. You know what I mean? If Infuse would have won the GFINITY the weekend, you'd have gone, all right, a little bit surprised, but you wouldn't have been totally surprised because they're a good side. You know what I mean? We're lucky in the EU at the moment. We've got 4, 5 strong teams. You know what I mean? That on their day you can challenge and beat anyone. You know what I mean? I still think it's going to be FaZe, then Rise, to be honest. But I think Infuse have got more chance than E6.
One of the things to pay attention to as well, Courage obviously was at GFINITY this weekend, and when we asked him who do you think was the big player, he said Moose. I mean, literally all weekend the casters were talking about Moose and how well he was playing that weekend. And I mean, at one point he was the leading KD, and if I think he had more games in the tournament, if he didn't go out, he probably would have been the highest KD of the whole event. And you know, he had a fantastic game. And I mean, I have to ask you, Sonny, in terms of Moose, is he a player that like you expect that from him consistently, or does it have to be the way he turns up to an event?
I mean, with Moose, like, it's been a while since like he's been like a standout player in the team. Like at AW, it was pretty rough. Black Ops 3, he was pretty alright, but like this game so far, he played amazing. I mean, he did have Synaptic, so that's a whole like, oh, he's a Synaptic player. But I mean, yeah, Matt, if that's the thing, if Infuse do well, if they get through winners, I think Moose has to turn up again, like bad. So it's going to come down to that.
Definitely. Well, we're going to be moving on to Pool B, and we've got possibly the biggest team in Europe versus one of the biggest organizations in America in this pool. Let's just break it down.
Whoa.
For Splice, Optic Gaming, Allegiance, Evil Geniuses, and Open Bracket team as well to come through in that one. So let's take a look at the top half then. So Splice and Optic Gaming, obviously Splice falling short to orbit this weekend. Really, really, really close. Possibly could have taken it towards the end in that one, but obviously you've been playing for so long. I mean, Sonny, talking just really quickly on the Splice team. Now, I personally, as I'm not a player, as I'm a caster, I thought that Splice were going to take that because of the momentum that they had. But as a player, I mean, after playing 3 series in a row, does it really drain you?
I mean, yeah, it definitely does drain you, especially how much stuff they played. I mean, I even thought the same when they won the first series. They were going to win. I think a lot of people would have predicted that. But I mean, I mean, I think they would have been like mentally drained and stuff after playing for so long. But obviously, you got to give props to the Orbit as well because that second series they did turn up, man, like pretty good.
So in terms of Splice, then, Sonny, I mean, where do you expect them to place in this group? I mean, they've got Optic Gaming to go up against. We speak about them all the time. If they turn up and they go to an event and they want to win it, they end up getting extremely close. It's tough opponent to play against. And I think we can't really let Allegiance go either. I mean, Allegiance are a team that's looking really strong in themselves. I mean, Sinful is one guy that's massively impressed me throughout I think it was MLG Vegas. I tweeted out and I said, if Sinful goes off here, then they're going to be in a good position. And Sinful had such a fantastic game. He kind of grew his name within the esports scene. But I mean, for you, Sonny and Splice, where do you see that? I mean, is it a first place? Is it a second place? Where do you see them placing?
Is the fourth team in the group EG? Isn't it?
Yeah,
it's Allegiance, EG. I think. I mean, see, that's pretty crazy because last MLG, Splice did lose to EG last map. But I think Splice will come through that group. I think Optic will come first, and then I think Splice will come second. But with Splice, I think they need to win S&Ds. Their respawn is like really good. If they can win S&Ds this event, then they'll do pretty well, I think. But yeah, I do predict them to come through winners. I think they'll come second in the group.
I mean, one thing we were talking about earlier, Paradox, and one thing that's massively impressed me about Splice is they are just an insane uplink team. I've not seen anybody play uplink like Splice play it. I think that's one thing that they could benefit from. Yeah, Jerd.
Jerd's 1 point is insane, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Jerd. I mean, then you've also got Madcat alongside him as well. I mean, those two have been teaming for quite a while, even under the Millennium Organization. So, I mean, the team is just stacked on paper, isn't it, Paradox? It's just got 4 players that are just absolutely have grown within the esports scene over the past couple of years. Some veterans and some players like Bans, who, since COD XP, has been a high punt name in terms of esports EU. But I mean, are Splice the type of team that can take on 4 of the so-called best players in Call of Duty? They take down the likes of Scump, the likes of Crimseas?
I think so. Especially we start to get into that whole conversation. Optic Gaming on Friday, they start out slow, right? That's some of the things that in this pool, I feel like that's going to be honestly one of the matches I'm looking forward to right off the bat, to see how these two teams stack up against each other. We get to like a bracket stage or something like that. I feel like that's where I have more faith in Optic to go out against Splice, like to take them out of a tournament. But we talk about a pool play matchup this wide open. These are 2 top teams. And I feel like it honestly depends on the day. And it depends on sort of the road that either team have taken to that matchup.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Tony, just get your final opinion coming in this one then. 4 major organizations coming through there. I mean, Allegiance may be seen as the underdog in that pool, but I wouldn't really call them an underdog. I think they've done enough to prove at MLG Vegas, and they've got 4 stacked players. It's a difficult bracket to make an opinion on. I mean, I guess if you're looking at it on paper, you'd go up to gaming first, and then it's a tie-up between the 3 below them.
Do you know what? Right, I'm going to...
I mean, where are you coming from?
Put my nuts on the table here. Right, I think if Splice play Optic early on, right, Splice will beat them because Optic generally start slow, don't they? They sort of... So their reputation turns up before they do. And then I think Splice could take the group, to be honest. And then Optic comes second because they take a little while. And they're not always... I don't know. I just don't think they put in the time in that. And I think with the game early on, it's about the amount of time you put in. And it helps, you know what I mean? And I just don't think they put the time in. They've obviously got all the ability in the world. It's like the Harlem Globetrotters, isn't it? But I think the way it's going now and that group, they've got to bring it for every single game. And I just don't know if they will at the start, mate.
I mean, personally, in my eyes, I think Allegiance really are a team to look out for. I would even have them come in first or second because of how I've seen them play. I honestly think they could take on Optic. I'm going to say it now, and I might get slated for it. I think the Optic game against Allegiance will take it 3-2, or it'll be extremely, extremely close. But I just feel confident in Allegiance. I think that they will end up getting closer to breaking that area. I think they're talented. But moving on into group number C, before we come on to obviously your group as well, Sonny, that you're in. But group C is Cloud9, Elevate, Luminosity, and Team 3G, and then obviously the open bracket team. So let's quickly just break this one down. Cloud9 obviously is Aches' roster. Luminosity Gaming has been a massive organization in the scene. There's 2 big American names. I mean, one thing I kind of want to talk about really in this group is 3G. We were just speaking about them earlier, praising them, how well they played this event. They've got a tough bracket, Paradox.
Yeah, they do. Looking at this one, I mean, C9, Elevate, LG, I feel like that's honestly a toss-up for first in that pool between those 3. 3G, I'm looking at how they stack up against Cloud9. If that's their first matchup, I'm not sure which ones they're going to be first, but honestly, I feel like whatever team they play first, that's what I'm sort of trying to judge where this team is at. If they get 3-0 right off the bat, then I don't have as much faith in 3G as I did in London, right? They really have to show up here in Atlanta. This is a golden, just like sort of E6, right? This is a golden group for them to really prove that the last event was not a fluke. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah, definitely. So really quick predictions then, Tony. Just give me the top 2 teams advancing from that bracket.
Elevate, Cloud9.
Okay, Sonny, top 2 teams advancing for that bracket.
Elevate. I think Elevate, and then a second team.
Team 3G, Luminosity or Cloud9.
It's a hard one because Luminosity are good at respawn, but I don't think S&D's that good. I'm going to go with LG. I'm going to go LG and Elevate.
Okay, then. Luminosity Gaming and Elevate, Sonny says. Moving into the final group, though. This one is SunnyB's. I'm sure he's got a lot to say on this one. Then he's going to be facing up against Team Orbit, the team we just seen win the GFIN this weekend. E-United, Team Envious. Team Envious, hey, Sonny. How you feeling?
I mean, to be fair, out of all the pools, I think A and B are like the really hard ones. So, obviously, every group's hard, but I think we have got a bit of an easier one if you want to say it's easier, but I mean it's still going to be a hard group, man. But to be fair, like I was out of the EU teams, even though Orbit won, like I'm sort of happy we got them because we didn't play them this weekend. So obviously we don't know what each of them do, because obviously we did play like Confused, Elevate. I mean, and then E United. I mean, I know they've been winning a lot online, so on paper they should storm this group because they've won like what 3 of the last 5 2Ks or something like that.
A good amount of the finals,
Yeah, so they've been getting finals. So you don't know what they're either going to be beasts or I don't know, man. And
I don't mean to scare you or nothing, Sonny, right? But the last time you played a team that was an online team was where?
I mean, that's
at least you remembered his name this time, Jack.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, though, I mean, does that not? What you were talking when you've seen a team that's like in the NA 2K at least, which has got so much competition in it.
I mean, not really. To be fair, like I mean, it would worry me more if there was like a team who's dominated events. I mean, obviously they're looking good going into the event, but that's offline. But that's not really going to scare any of us now. And then Envy, the other team. I mean, they're the world champs, but see, they have improved a lot recently. So like, because at the start they weren't that good because they hadn't played, but I mean they're much better now. I mean, they won one of the 2Ks as well. So, like, if you want to just judge off the 2Ks, we've got 2 good teams who have recently smashed it in them. So, and then the last team, a team who just won the last event. So it's going to be a pretty hard run, man. But I mean, with the underdog in the group anyway, we're just gonna practice hard this next week. We've learned a lot from this weekend as well at GFINITY. Obviously, it was our first event, so we learned a lot from there. We're gonna just go hard this next week and then just go to the event as underdogs, see what we can pull off.
So while Sonny's sat in the call, I'm going to put a bit of pressure on Paradox and Tony and ask them for their predictions and see if they either be nice to Sonny and put him at number 1, or they just be brutally honest with it, whatever it is they want to say about this group. So Paradox, I'm going to ask you first. You got Team Envious, you got Orbit, the GFINITY champions, you got SunnyB's team FNATIC, and then you've also got the 2K champion streak winners E-United at the minute. I mean, who is taking this group and how's it looking?
All right, so I'm going to start with E-United here. I think we're looking at 4th for them, 3rd, 4th. I'm not 100% sold on them. I mean, we have a core roster coming over from Gosu who did beat FaZe in Vegas, but honestly, I'm not really sure how these guys are really going to perform, right? I believe that bracket game or the group game against FaZe was like their only win in pool play in Vegas too. So I'm not 100% sold on this team. That's no offense to any of the guys on there. So I'm thinking 4th for them. The other 3, Sunny, man, this is tough for you. Like, I can't even. Honestly, if you guys can come out and you play good against Aware or Envy, if one of them start off slow, then you guys are going to finish 2nd. On paper, I feel like you look at these, I would say Orbit 1, Envy 2, FNATIC 3. But honestly, it's going to come down to the day.
Tony, you agree with that one? Yeah, true.
Yeah, I said before the last one, I said my favourite pro team at the minute is FNATIC. I said it because I love the boys a bit. Sonny's a nice lad, and I think Tommy's amazing. You know what I mean? I said this the other week. If I could have, if my heart could pick any team to win it, it'd be them. You know what I mean? Because I feel, especially with the boys.
Tony, how much you paying Tony?
I appreciate that.
Tony before you came on this call.
But the thing is, I also said then I think they'd do better at ESWC because they'd play together as a four for a little bit longer. I think they've got an hard group there, to be honest. But I agree pretty much with Paradox's placements.
The interesting thing is, as well, Tony, there's a few tweets gone out saying this is the group of death. I mean, do you agree with that?
I think it's hard, mate. Look, if EU United turn up, right, you've got the team that's just won GFIN, right, who everyone knows is a good team. You've got the champs, right? You've got EU United that's been bumming everyone. And then you've got FNATIC with Tommy, Sunny, Scraps. You know what I mean? You've got to look at that. You know what I mean? It isn't an easy group for anyone. Imagine being the team from the open bracket that comes in. And you never know. Just think who you could get from the open bracket to be in there as well. We're forgetting that. There's good teams there, you know what I mean? That's a good team.
Probably the most stacked event ever, man. This is.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Going to be a proper stacked event, man.
I mean, are the likes of Mind Freak going?
Yeah, there's a team. Yeah, the top team over there goes as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so I mean, you could end up getting Mind Freak in there as well. I mean, that'd throw a spanner in the works. I mean, a team that
I don't think no APAC teams are going to the event. It's the next one. It's Dallas, where there's 2 APAC teams in pools.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, you've got teams like Epsilon, Red Reserve, Echo Fox, Rogue. I mean, you've got a few other European teams coming over. You've got Imperio, I mean, and then Aware, I don't know what's going on with them because apparently at the moment they're not going, but they're trying to go. But I mean, so yeah, I mean, every pool's hard. Me personally, I thought the pool of death was probably A, but otherwise, every pool's hard. Every game's going to be hard. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's whoever turns up on the day, man. So
and it's good like this. This is how you want it, though. Like you want it to be like this. You don't want it to just be 1 or 2 teams. You know who's going to come first and second, and you don't even bother watching the pools because you're going to wait till the Sunday to start watching the games because you can predict it. You know what I mean? This is good. Like.
Oh, I mean that's a great point. I mean, I think like I personally will want to tune into every single one of these games because I think there's a possible chance that there are some underdog performances coming through here. Like I said, I think Allegiance might take Optic all the way. Whether Optic end up winning it because they're massively known for composure and they take it in game 5 or it's a 3-0 shutout. I honestly think this event, because of the level of competition we've got, I reckon we're going to see the most underdog stories, the biggest comebacks, the biggest clutch moments that we've seen in a long time in Call of Duty. And I think that's one thing that we've been missing for a while is the fact that the Call of Duty events are just not really, engaging that much no more. Like the olden days, like Black Ops 2. I mean, how many times did fans cheer for Black Ops 2? And watching that game was just so fun. And hopefully that this will relive that for us. But anyway, guys, that is the Esports Hub Talk Show number 2 finished. I want to thank SunnyB for coming on to the show. Thank you for being our first guest.
Thanks to you lot for letting me on here.
Awesome, no worries. You can chuck that in your CV. He was on the Esports Hub podcast. There you go. It's another thing to add to the CV. But anyway, we wish you the best of luck going over into MLG Atlanta. Hopefully you can fight out of that group and hopefully we can see you making it all the way through and taking Team EU all the way. Not necessarily sure Paradox agrees with that one, as I'm sure he'll be backing Envious from underneath the background and be going, come on, Envy, as he's playing against FNATIC. But maybe we'll definitely be supporting you, me and Tony anyway. But thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. That has been the Esports Hub Talk Show. I've been your host, Cass Campbell. Thank you very much to Tony. Thank you very much to Paradox. And thank you very much to SunnyB. Make sure that you stay around towards the end of this to see our promotional advert coming up with our new website, our new ideas, and our new things that are coming to the 2017 Call of Duty esports scene.
He's gonna look at the third, but he's so close. Never gonna wait. The ball